Welcome to session 4, week 2. Last night we went over time, and so tonight we won't go as long, but I might just add some filler in video at the end. We're starting a little bit later just because I was delayed. So tonight on our agenda is to go over, to make sure there's no more questions regarding the assignment, and then to go over the assessment, and then we can begin working on the assignment in class. So oops. We do have some announcements, but I'll just show you in class. Keep going into that. Trying to, it's taking over my full screen. There we go. What's on the screen right now?
The homepage.
Okay, good. I always look for the green around the home page, or green around the screen, so I know what's shared. But with Zoom, sometimes you change the screen and the green goes away, and yet this is the screen that's being shown. So I wanted to point out that last night I recorded and uploaded the lecture 3 here. Also, I posted an announcement. And the announcement has a link to the live, also has a link to the live lecture, same link. But I also mentioned here that the lynda.com playlist for week 2 is now pointing to the correct playlist, and I tested and made sure that was working. So just click on modules here on the left and scroll down to week 2 and then click on the lynda.com playlist. I also here I've uploaded the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that we created last night. This spreadsheet was our planning tool for planning exactly how the animations and what frames they would start up and take place. And so is the Excel showing on the screen right now?
Yes.
All right, so sheet 1 is Sarah's animation. She was doing 2.5 seconds for each frame, 30 divided by 12 frames, and 30 seconds divided by 12 frames. And here we calculated beginning and ending frame, and then we estimated exactly what objects would be on the screen during what frames. So here is the life of this. So the timeline, to an extent that these are the layers of the timeline, you have to turn it over. But then when we worked on Goldie's, we did turn it over because it was going to work a little bit better for us. And we just started with the seconds, number of seconds of the frame animation, went up to 20 seconds. Hers was 20 seconds long. And then we extrapolate exactly how many frames that would be at that second. So this would be 24 times whatever, 24 frames per second times whatever is up here. Now, keep in mind you can actually slow down or even speed up. Your animation doesn't have to be 24 frames per second, but that's kind of like the default standard. So here, beginning in the second, we would be at frame 48, right at that minute that second number 2 begins. So it would go all the way to frame 71, which is one less than the frame for the next second. So at beginning at 0 to 1 seconds, we go from 0 to frame 24. 1 to 2 seconds, we go from 24 to 48. Actually, 24 to 47. And then beginning 3 seconds, on the third second, we're going up to 72 and so forth. So the background, here we have a pretty good map of what the timeline will look like. And so the object of the background we placed on frame 0, and it would live all the way through the end of 20 seconds, which would be actually frame 503, because 21 seconds, when the 21st second begins, we're at frame 504. So this would live all the way through to 503, stopping right before the 21st second began. Hers is a 20-second advertisement. And then here are the lives of the bells. It would begin on frame 0, and it would go all the way through to frame, it would go all the way to frame 70, actually 95, because it would be here during the entire third second. And the third second of time will end on one frame before the 4th second begins. So this will be all the way up to frame 95. And here we have little acronyms here for the text and so on that takes place. This one would be on the screen for 1 second only. It would begin at frame 72 and its life would end at frame 95, which is one before that. Here, Santa would begin in frame 96 and it would end at frame 191. This kind of looks like frame 168, but remember, it's going to stay here for the entire second. So we're going, during the 7th second, we're going from frame 168 all the way through to frame 191. Once we hit frame 192, it's beginning the 8th second. So these objects would begin and end, begin and end. Here we had the question mark, whether or not anything would be on a screen, whether or not the object would be off the screen, that the text would be off the screen, and then move onward to the off stage. So it would exist, but not on the stage. It's when objects are off the stage, they still exist. And so they're just not in the view. Like the stage is technically like a window into our animation. And the window only sees what you see on the stage. Outside the stage there, you can move objects off the stage, and they won't show up in the window of our animation because it's kind of like a clip, or it's being clipped or cropped, actually. So the stage is really a cropping of, and the size of our stage depends on how big we create it. It is a cropping of our animation. So objects that are off the stage are there, they live, they're alive, they are as alive as though they're on the stage. So the animation, it doesn't, anything moving off the stage doesn't show up any differently when you look at the timeline. Just by looking at the timeline, you can't really tell if something's on the stage or off the stage, but you really have to select the object and see where it's in the layer and see where it's pointing to. Then you see, oh, well, right here at this frame, it's actually off the stage, and it might be off the stage for, let's say 20 frames, and then it shows up on the stage. And all that means is the object is off the stage, and then it begins to show up. There's no status change of the object itself. It's just moving from off the set, if you will, on the right, across the set, and then off the stage to the left. So it's kind of like you're going into the curtains, behind the curtains. When you look at the production, you're only seeing what you can see on the stage, which is revealed by the curtains. But if someone goes off stage, obviously you can't see it anymore, and yet they still are existing. So I'm of the opinion that this is, even though it's a blank, it will be a blank. We'll just see in Goldie's example, it's blank. The object indeed is living, and maybe I can put something like off stage or something like that. Or maybe I'll just do X with a asterisk, meaning it's there, but you can't see it. So, because it's off the stage. And these objects end up on the stage and then they fade out. That's how they end their lives. You don't really have to have it do a fade as much as the life ends right at the moment. And so it's kind of like the light's turned off. If we don't do a fade tween, which we can do, but if we don't do a fade tween, it's just like the text was there, one frame, and then poof, it's gone. So there's really, there wasn't any idea of a fade out or a fade in for that matter. It was really text going from right to left, showing up on the screen, and then right when the next frame begins, or the next scene begins, the text would just vanish that had been there. So that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So then here also. So each of these with asterisks suggests that the object exists, the text exists, but it's just off the screen. And then, in fact, I'm thinking that even these, let's see, maybe, now that I think of it, well, I was just focusing on this one, but technically, because the objects are off the screen and she brings them on, my guess is that the text will also, not just this text here, we're only focusing on this one, but my guess is that these texts will live off the screen also. So I'm going to guess that will be off the screen. It won't be on the screen when the Santa appears, but the animation will begin such that its life begins off the screen, and then it comes swooshing from the right to the left, or right to the center. And so I think that's going to happen with each of these. They'll begin their lives off the stage, even the cup. I think each of these will have that characteristic. They are. Sarah, do you follow what I'm getting at here?
I am.
Okay. So each of these objects start their lives. They don't necessarily have to start right at this particular frame, but it doesn't hurt to have it over there off the stage. And then by the time this frame for it to show up begins, it's coming across and it appears. So trying to think if this is the best way of designing this, or yeah, I'm convinced, because it's coming from the right to the left, it's living before it shows up on the screen. Now, her animation is designed such that the moment that it starts showing up on the screen is where we have it here, that the life begins. But I'm going to predict that this is the right way for the design of this. The exception would be this last scene, because I love the Starbucks logo. Those are just there see, they're there along with the background. And they show up right at the beginning. They aren't tweened on, if you will. So I'm going to guess that those don't have to be off. They're not off the stage. They're not going from stage right to coming onto the stage. Those are just there. And so beginning at frame 456, you'll find the background, you'll find this object, and it will live there all the way until frame 503, which is right before the 21st second begins, and right at the moment that the 20th second ends. So that would be our planning for the lives and objects of, and this is what we would want you to bring out onto the stage. This, you don't need to do the tween or the animation. In fact, forget what I just said. Bringing it out on the stage, because that is the animation. So all we need to worry about, we don't need to worry about movement or anything. Just have the object exist. The tween will be next week, and you can when you insert the keyframe of the ending of its life, you can then change that to a tween, and then on that last frame, you can move it over there to wherever it ends up. But that's next week. All right, so this is how we can plan out our animation, scene by scene and frame by frame. That's that timeline planner. Maybe what I'll do is I'll update this with this updated one, just because this one's more, it's truer. The time. Okay, the Santa Claus will appear right then, but this the text I think comes in from the right. I can't remember what that text is. TTSAS. I don't know what that stands for, but I'm pretty sure that that's coming in from the right. The time, I can't remember what that text is, but it comes from the right to left, and so it too will have to begin its life off the screen prior to its appearance on the screen. So the asterisk is beginning its life off the screen. So what I'll do is I'll update the spreadsheet for that I posted here. All right, so that is the live lecture that's been announced, and are there any questions? Oh, I was going to make sure that so I want to show you this. The modules, scroll down to week 2, lynda.com playlist, and you'll see here in just a minute that the week 2 playlist is working. The link is working properly.
So we're ready to start working in Flash.
All right, so each of these videos are this week's assignment. The only really long one is this one down here. If you look here, you can see here this list of videos. And they're referenced in that playlist. So, any questions about the discussion? Are you good?
I am good.
And then any questions about the assignment?
No, I'm good there too.
Okay. You can just take the default size of the stage. And we are doing ActionScript 3 just because our videos talk about ActionScript 3. And it allows you to use all drawing tools. There's some things you can't yet do in a Canvas-based animation, Adobe Animate file. So, yeah, this is just mentioning about when we publish. It publishes separate files. The difference between ActionScript 3, that creates a single file when you publish, an SWF file, which requires the Adobe Flash Player. But if you create an HTML5 Canvas document, which is a different option than when you do the file new. It will create, it doesn't have a single file, it actually separates out into several files the assets, and the HTML file will be separate, the JavaScript file will be separate. It'll reference the HTML5 file will reference that JavaScript file, so all the links will work fine, but it'll come separately. Likewise, the images will be all separate, and they'll be in their own folder, and there will even be some JavaScript library files that will be output too. So you see a lot of what is normally packed into a single SWF file. It's all separated. So, but we'll see that more when we do our publishing, which isn't until next week. So the HTML5 canvas is kind of a very disconnected. They're all separated. So that's just a little bit difference. The reason why they're separated is because that is the basis of an HTML5 document. It doesn't include images right inside it. It just links to them. It links to images. It links to JavaScript files. It links to videos, so on. It doesn't include them all in the HTML5 document. And the reason is the HTML5 document is actually a text-based document. It's text-based because the browser reads it itself, and it's HTTP protocol or HTML hypertext markup language, and it reads the codes. And when it discovers it needs to pull in an image, it goes out and gets it off the server. And when it discovers it needs to pull in a script, it goes and gets it. So that's how the browser would normally work with an HTML5 animation or a Adobe Animate output if it were an HTML5 canvas document. But with its ActionScript 3 document, again, like that creates a single file, SWF file, but it requires the Adobe Flash Player to be installed on whatever platform you run it on, and that reads that file format. It's a proprietary file format. It's not HTML5. It's not JavaScript. It's actually ActionScript. Coding is inside, and then all the objects and images are all bundled right inside the SWF file. And it's the Flash Player that extracts them out of that file and then displays them. But you can't watch an SWF file without having the Flash Player present or installed. So you'll learn more about that, the difference between the two. The reason why there's been a big change going from this ActionScript 3 now to HTML5 canvas is because the Steve Jobs really shot a hole in the whole idea of the Flash Player, and he didn't like it. He didn't want it on his system. It was too powerful. He disparaged it because technically Steve Jobs owning the iPhone, he did not want to have hosted a platform which is like the Flash Player. He didn't want to have that on his iPhone. And because it basically enabled individuals to provide apps and animations and apps and so on outside his framework, because it would be inside the framework of Adobe Flash. And when he shot a hole in that whole thing, so it was too slow and buggy and it's archaic and it's proprietary, those things may have been really telling a truth. He also wanted to leverage, get rid of Adobe because he wanted to have all applications native. Native means they're written for the iOS, the operating system for his iPhone. And by doing that, either that or he wanted them non-proprietary. And so he was open to, Steve Jobs was open to having his browser that's installed on his iPhone open up and process these animations, but he didn't, which were made from HTML5 and JavaScript, but he wouldn't support the Adobe Flash Player. So that in and of itself really shot a hole in the Flash Player, and it also kind of shot a hole in Adobe Flash, really. That's one of the reasons why they renamed it to Adobe Animate, is because it's not the word Flash anymore. The Adobe Flash, that Flash name just plummeted in its meaning and branding and value. It's amazing because the Flash Player was on 99.9% 80% of all the computers that laptops and computers, the workstations that hooked up to the internet, people had installed that Flash player. And so it was out there. But very quickly, it lost. It's like shooting it out of the sky. So they are trying to, by rebranding it to Adobe Animate, they are trying to recoup what they can. They're trying to facilitate getting developers off of the old Adobe Flash Professional and onto Adobe Animate and bringing their project files over. They realized that this HTML5 and JavaScript can't do everything that the ActionScript 3 and could do. So if you go out there, you'll find that developers will say, no, we want to keep ActionScript 3 because it's more robust. And here you use all the drawing tools available. The ActionScript 3 language is more robust than the JavaScript things. And just so you know, Adobe Animate, Adobe actually got a hold of a library of code that was open source, this Create.js. This is how they were able to so quickly convert their Adobe Animate to be able to work with HTML5 Canvas, because all these routines, basically the corollary of ActionScript, these are the JavaScript routines, and each of these are libraries of minis. You can see all these different modules here, and these are all what are replacing the ActionScript library. So now we have these JavaScript things that have all been written. It's all open source. So as you can see, if you go to the home page of this thing, one of the sponsors of this whole library is on the bottom right there, Adobe. So Adobe got on board, Microsoft even got on board, and they incorporated this code right into their tool. So now they're able to generate HTML5 Canvas with JavaScript routines that are automatically written. These were already created. And so that's how Adobe was able to get up to speed so quickly to be able to create JavaScript files. Now, you won't need to worry about the programming of interactivity of the JavaScript until the third class of your Adobe Animate series, or the animation series. That's when you learn to program and use some of the code snippets that are available. Next week, if and when you convert from ActionScript 3 document to an HTML5 Canvas document, you'll notice that when you publish it, it will be using some of this code. Now, you won't have to worry about it. It will generate this code. It will actually pull from its own library. And when it outputs this, in order just to pull off a tween with an HTML5 Canvas document, it will use some of the modules from this tween library. And it will do it all automatically. You are not needing to program any of this. You don't need to know any of the code. You won't be inserting any of the code. Adobe Animate will automatically generate the calls and the programming in your animation that takes advantage of those routines that we're just looking at that are now incorporated into Adobe Animate. So that will be something you'll learn next week, and either next week or probably the fourth week, we'll look at those the output files and just start to get a little bit familiar with how Adobe Animate is working under the covers. I say under the covers, I basically mean how do they do the animations and what are the functions that are being called, and because it's not all done with just HTML5, and they're not using CSS, which is a cascading style sheets, which does allow for animation. They're not using that. They're actually just using HTML5 and this the JavaScript routines that we were just looking at. Some of those we'll be generating those in week 4, and you'll see that. This week, you just need to worry about the FLA file that you've created. You don't need to worry about publishing. Okay, any questions at this point?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, let's see. Let's see. We've gone over the assignment, the discussion, giving you some background on where we're headed. And next step is to look at the assessment. And what I'd like to do is take a short break. Let's see, what time is it there? Is it 10:30 there? Yeah, it's about 10:25.
Yeah, 10:25.
Let's take a short break, and a 5-minute break or so, and we'll come back to going over the assessment. There we go. Okay, so we'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so the assessment, let's see, I guess I'll make sure the screen is sharing. Hold on. Can you see the assessment?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So the good news about this week is that you can continue where you left off with week 1 assessment. And then there's this tutorial that we want you to look at. The course media page. I'll show you where that is. Week 1, week 2, right here. And this one will introduce you to the bone tool. So you can give that some thought, decide whether or not you want to use that in your animation. So this will introduce you to the bone tool.
This is a continuation from week 1.
Yeah, the assessment is a continuation of week 1. And so this will give you an introduction to the bone tool. So it says have some fun with creating a humanoid type character that you can animate. If you'd like, you can play around with a dog, you know, or you can start experimenting using the dog's legs and arms, or legs. I guess he's got all legs, doesn't have any arms. So there are a couple options that you have here. You can just work from your week 1 animation, pick up where you left off. So that's the good news. Or you can start over and do this. So let's read through these instructions, see if you have any questions. So using your existing, you can open it up and then save it to a new name and add an object to the background for the character and to interact with, or use your creature for the character to interact with, or the creature. So you can then draw a humanoid type character that is jointed parts. You'll learn how this works by just watching that animated video, or the video, this video right here, creating realistic movement, the one we just looked at. Jointed parts can allow it to walk, wave, or other human-like movements. And how it works is you create the limb, the hand, the arm, the shoulder, arm, and you connect them, you group them together, and you combine them and make them basically a set of bones. So import or make your character assemble and animate using the bone tool. You can either make it from scratch or you can import it. And each moving part is going to be a separate part, but when you combine them and create the one arm that moves together, that ends up becoming a bone tool animation on its own layer. So you'll see that in the video. The character's legs must do at least one of the following movements: walk, crawl, jump, or kick. So that'll be fairly straightforward. The character's arms, hands must do at least one of the following movements: wave, push off of something. Do not use a skeleton from the tutorial for your character. That's what we have. So that's option 1, using something from last week. And option 2 here would be where you create the new HTML5 Canvas document using Adobe Animate, and then make your stage size this dimension. Frame weights will default to 24 frames per second. 10 to 15 second long animation. It only has to play once, and then you can create a background and then draw a humanoid type character, just kind of like this up here, number 3. Import, the same thing, import and make your character. So it's like number 7 down here is like number 4 up here. Background, environment, and then character's legs must do it, and this is number 5 here. Walk, crawl, jump, kick. And then character's arms and hands must do at least one of the following: wave, push off of something. Okay.
This is similar to like what we had to do with it in the first one, only it's a little more movement.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking we could do is, this isn't very long. What I could do is to give you a commentary on on this as we're going along, and stop it, and just stop it, and then pause and ask you questions and see if you're following it. I'll stop it along the way. I'll provide my own commentary. It's only about 7 minutes long, so let's do that. That way, we'll make sure you're clear on what she explains. This is actually
the
Joseph.
Bone tool in Adobe Animate CC makes it easy to add lifelike animation to characters which have movable joints. Let's explore this tool and see what's possible. When animating with the Bone tool, you can use a number of different project types. We're going to choose HTML5 Canvas. And the first thing we'll do is just...
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. Did you see what he just did? HTML5 Canvas? Did you see that? Oh, maybe I can't hear you when this is playing.
No, I missed it. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's go back.
Let's explore this tool and see what's possible. When animating with the Bone tool, you can use a number of different project types. We're going to choose HTML5 Canvas. And the first thing we'll do is just change.
So that's fairly new, because Bone tool used to be only available with Adobe Flash Professional, and then when they decided to go with that Create.js JavaScript, HTML5 Canvas, they then phased out the Bone tool because they weren't ready to support it with this project file. So
with the Bone tool, you can use a
he's
number
basically
of different
saying
project types.
the Bone tool is available no matter which type of project you're going to choose here. Now, week 1, our animation, actually this week we have chosen ActionScript 3.0, this one specifically. But in this assignment, we're not requiring you to. Let me get this on my screen. We're watching this video, so that's why I can't go to it. We're not requiring you to do ActionScript 3.0 for this. So let's go on.
We're going to choose HTML5 Canvas. And the first thing we'll do is
See, right
to
up
change
here,
the background color.
Right up here, you can see the canvas. That means that this will always have in parentheses the canvas there. You'll know that it is HTML5 Canvas project file. So this file cannot and will not generate, when published, an SWF file, because this is not ActionScript 3. He didn't choose ActionScript 3 in the very first dialog. He chose HTML5 Canvas. And in doing so, the published output of this will be HTML5 documents, will be JavaScript files separate, the image files will be separated, and that's, so this canvas right there, actually this word canvas represents the HTML5 canvas element that was introduced with HTML5. And canvas basically means like a painter's canvas. And so that's how HTML5 has solved the problem of being able to draw, having HTML5 be able to draw.
So I'll use this dark blue.
Okay, first thing over here
Using the
is
CC Libraries panel,
change the stage
we
color.
can easily integrate assets created with other applications, like this vector skeleton from Adobe Illustrator.
Okay, so this here is his link to the Creative Cloud, the libraries, CC Libraries. So this exposes the objects that are up on the Adobe website. So it hooks up directly to that.
We'll just drag and drop this onto our stage.
Now keep in mind that using this is not what we want you to do. This is just for learning purposes. We don't want you to use this same set of data, the skeleton data, out of the Creative Cloud library. And you can see it's an AI file. It's an Adobe Illustrator file. So this is the name of the file up there on the Creative Cloud library, and we're importing it to Stage. And it's giving us the options, these different options. What do we do with the layer? What do we do with the text that's there? What do we do about the layers that are in Adobe Illustrator? Should we convert them into separate layers? They call it animate layers. That's just kind of a nickname given to the fact that you create multiple layers here to do your animation. So if we convert the layers of Adobe Illustrator into animate layers, that will take the objects and put them on automatically put them on different layers. Or else we can compact them all into a single animate layer, and then, or we can import them into just keyframes. So the stage size, currently this is the stage size of the animation, this project file that we're bringing in, and the stage size that we created was 550 by 400.
And we're able to import it. I want to make sure to put everything into a single animate layer, and I'll hit OK. All right, let's close that. We can modify.
So as you can see, this object now existed. It was empty, now it's a black dot. And all of these objects now exist on this one layer.
Any of the assets within our imported content. For instance, let's go ahead and remove this background element, because we don't really need that for our animation.
Okay, so he just removed the background element that was the object that was included in the AI file. He did not obviously remove his own stage. It's the other one that came in with the import. So that's gone now. You can see the tool he's using right up here is the select tool.
In order to rig the skeleton as an armature, we'll first convert each.
He used the word armature. Now, the armature is the name given to the kind of thing that we create that has arm-like characteristics or leg-like characteristics. It's called an armature. That's when you group the upper arm with the lower arm with the hand objects, you create an armature. And so it's like a mechanism that works together. Obviously, the armature of the left arm is different than the armature of the right arm, which is different than the armature of the left leg, which is different than the armature of the right leg. So, so you're going to have, those will be different.
Each element to a movie clip symbol. The bone tool can also be used on shape objects, but we'll first convert each element to a movie clip symbol. The bone tool can also be used on shape objects, but in this case, we're rigging the skeleton using symbols. So let's choose each element. So I'll choose the ribcage here and remove this background element, because we don't really need that for our animation. In order to rig the skeleton as an armature, we'll...
Okay. Are you following okay?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
First, convert each element to a movie clip symbol.
Okay, he said convert each element to a movie clip symbol. Now he's using the word element to just represent each little drawing that's separate. You saw all of them selected right when he imported it. So each of those different elements are parts of the skeleton. Each of them are going to be converted to a symbol. The reason why each of them, because right now they're just objects. And they're kind of like dumb objects. Just they don't have any capability of being animated. And so when he says we're going to convert each of the elements, he's really meaning the objects, to a symbol. By doing that, you elevate the capability of this to something that can be animated. And what you're basically doing is you're adding all sorts of information and metadata to that, and that's what makes a symbol. A symbol is more robust. There's more information that can be associated with the symbol. It can be named. The instance this can be pulled out and be named. They can be animated and so on. So he used the word element, but he's going to be converting each of them to a symbol.
The bone tool can also be used on shape objects, but in this case, we're rigging the skeleton using symbols.
Okay, so shape objects, meaning here we have like little parts of bitmaps. Each of the elements is a little section of a bitmap. And what he just said was, by the way, it doesn't have to be a section of a bitmap object that for you to create your animation. It can be a shape object, which is something that is drawn. First it's drawn and then it's converted into a symbol. And so even that can be used, either shape objects or these bitmaps can be used together to form an armature, which can then be used with a bone tool and so on.
So let's choose each element. So I'll choose the rib cage here, and we'll choose modify.
You can know that it's chosen obviously because the blue line is around, the blue square is around the object. And you click on modify, convert to symbol, and this goes from just being an object in our library now to a symbol.
Convert to symbol, and here we can give it a name.
We have to give it a name, so it shows up in our library. And underneath that is the type of symbol.
Name, ribs, and make sure it's a movie clip symbol, and hit OK. We're going to...
Yep, so movie clip symbol, and then there, we don't yet have an instance name because we're actually looking at the symbol itself. Frankly, what we just did is the symbol, if we were to click on the library, we would see a symbol, ribs symbol in a library, actually movie clip symbol just got created. And this is sitting here, and it actually is an instance of that movie clip symbol, the ribs movie clip symbol that is now in our library. So it's kind of weird. We have the bitmap sitting here in front of us, and we just said, hey, we want to convert you to a symbol. Well, when we did that, we added a new entry into our library of a symbol of a movie clip, and we called it ribs. So, and in the same time, we left out on our stage this object. So what used to be just an object sitting on our stage is now become an instance of the ribs symbol that is now in our library. And that all happened when we did a convert to symbol. Both of those things. It used to be just an object sitting here in front of us with no name, no information, just a bitmap. Now it is an instance, meaning a copy of the ribs symbol in the library. So that's going to happen with each of these. Each of these they're currently sitting here on the stage as a bitmap, but they're going to be converted into an instance of, or a child of, or a copy of the symbol. And so it retains its now relationship as an instance to its symbol in the library, which it came from. So it's kind of weird how when we just convert the symbol, we kind of make this a copy of or a child of or instance of something that is now a symbol in our library. But it's going to happen for each of these. So watch.
Repeat this on every other piece. So choosing the skull.
It's just an object right now.
Convert to symbol.
Convert to symbol.
Skull.
Okay, and that's a movie clip. That just went into our library, and the
Since I'm
skull.
doing this to many different pieces, let's go ahead and speed up playback to when I'm finished.
So he's doing this now to each one. So our library is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's creating symbols for each of these.
All right, now that this is complete, we can see that each one of these is a movie clip symbol instance. Let's go ahead and recenter our stage by clicking the center stage button here. And then I'm going to select everything. And then I can move
You just do the
everything
Command
around
A.
just like that. So what I'm going to do is position the skeleton somewhere around there. Now that we have our skeleton assembled into individual movie clip symbols, we can use the bone tool to actually rig the armature. You'll find the bone tool in the tools panel over to the side here. With that selected, we can then go ahead and draw in our primary bone. This is from where every other bone in our armature is going to branch out from. For this, I'm going to pin the heart right here and then pull that up to the skull. So basically click and drag until you get up to one of the other movie clip symbols, and then release. Now, the rib cage and the skull are both part of the same armature, simply because I have this bone connecting them both. You'll notice down in the timeline, we also have a special armature layer. The background for an armature layer is yellow in terms of its frame span, and it receives a special icon as well. Let's complete rigging this armature here by clicking once again on that primary point and then dragging out until we connect once again. We'll do that to the other arm, to the pelvis, and then even from there, let's branch out into these other pieces. Same thing with the arms. And you don't have to be too exact unless you have the time to do so.
So you're
And there
extending
we
it.
have our completed armature. Let's choose our selection tool.
Okay, so as you noticed, they didn't all go from the heart. The one in the center one there in the heart, that radiates out and connects to the shoulder, but then the shoulder then connects to the elbow and so on. And so oops.
And there we have our completed armature.
The pelvis here then goes from here and connects to the hip, and then the hip goes down to the knee and so on. This becomes we didn't have to go down to the hand because that's all one there. This becomes the armature.
Let's choose our selection tool. So with this bone highlighted, we can go ahead in the properties panel and look for our joint rotation. Here we can actually put some constraints on that. So for instance, as I go ahead here and shift these things around, we can see the level of constraint that we have on this joint, adapt and change. That looks pretty good. Let's go over to the other arm now, and I'll do the same thing. I'll enable constraints and shift that around until we get this nice sort of half moon rotation constraint. Let's zoom back out to 100% and center the stage. To test this, we can just grab the arm.
So you can see that the angle is formed right there. That's the angle of motion of that joint.
And holding down shift, it'll actually
And it
constrain
stops.
exactly as we specify. If I don't hold shift down,
Those are
I'll
the
be able
joint
to move the
rotation
entire armature
constraints.
based on the movements of that bone. You'll notice that by constraining the rotation of specific joints in this manner, we can add more realistic movements to our armature. Now, since we've created...
So he's got, so far, it used to be 360, and then when they did the constraint, it ended up being the smaller angle.
to move the entire armature based on the plane exactly as we
Go
specify.
back
Grab
here.
the arm, and holding down Shift, it'll actually constrain exactly as we specify.
Oops.
If I don't hold Shift down, I'll be able to move the entire armature based on the movements of that bone. You'll notice that by constraining the rotation of specific joints in this manner, we can add more realistic movements to our armature. Now, since we've created this armature layer, we do have this empty layer right below it. Let's build something for our skeleton to lean against. I'm going to choose this gray color and use a rectangle tool to go ahead and pull out a rectangle here. Selecting that rectangle, let's actually align it to the left bottom of the stage. And then using the subselection tool, I can choose this particular point in our rectangle right here and adapt the path like this. So now that gives the skeleton a nice little incline to rest upon. In order to animate the skeleton, we need to change the pose of our armature over time. So to do that, let's actually go ahead and over at frame 40, select the frames across both of those layers and choose Insert, Timeline, Frame. Let's lock down this secondary layer, and with our selection tool, we can choose Edit, Select All, and then using our arrow keys, we can shift the skeleton over a bit, and then simply click the paste board to deselect everything. Let's go ahead now and actually pose our armature. So I want the skeleton to be at an angle like this. And note that I am still holding Shift down. I'm providing the skeleton with a natural pose as I go through these different motions here. And there we are. You'll notice down in our armature layer, we have two poses, which appear just like keyframes, here and here.
Okay, so the two poses, frame 1 of the armature, that little square diamond means that there's an object here and it's in a position. Frame 40, the same thing.
Now, of course, if we wanted to, we could always put in intermediary poses here and here until it's exact.
So the tween is going to take this armature where it is in frame 1, and he just kind of set it up like leaning against it. And then he had it in frame 40 and had a final position of where it was in frame 40. And what Adobe Flash is going to do is going to animate, and it's going to move all the parts back to from being leaning down on that rock or whatever it is, that surface, and it'll move it and end up standing straight up in frame 40. So all the movements between frames 1 and 2 and 39 are all going to be all computer generated because it's a tween. And it will know that it needs to move the arm so far, it needs to do this, you know, it kind of extrapolates all the movements just so that it knows exactly how to end up in a nice continuous fashion to where it arrives in frame 40.
Like we want it. However, this is actually pretty good. Let's go ahead and test this by rewinding and then playing it back. If we want to actually see it run in the browser, we can choose Control, Test. And there it is running in the browser as well as HTML5 canvas from Animate CC.
Now, did he put any on like the elbow of the skeleton? He didn't put any range of motion
That's right.
restrictions, right?
That's right. He could have, and he talked about doing it, but it was left to us to do that.
So if you don't put any restrictions for range of motion, it could go in a what, 360?
Yep, that's its default. Yeah, that joint, the thing attached to that joint could do it 360 degrees all the way around. So the arm, the lower arm, would be capable, because we don't have any constraints on it, it would allow it to move anywhere, and it wouldn't be constrained. Anywhere, 360 degrees. So until it's constrained, it has the capability of moving 360 degrees.
The Bone tool in Adobe Animate
Oops.
CC.
I think we reached the end of it. Yeah. So here in the assessment, you can start from scratch. You can add to the one that you had from last week. But they want you to do the legs should do a walk or a crawl or a jump or kick. And then the arms or hands must do a wave, a push off, or something. And here, just do not use a skeleton for the tutorial. So with your dog, you could have possibly the leg attached to the body, the front leg, back leg, and so on. It doesn't necessarily have to be like an elbow joint for the dog. You know, you could operate the legs. Each leg is a single movable object rather than how, like in humans, we have an elbow and a knee that moves. But I'll leave that up to you if you want to try that out with the dog. So right now it's 11 o'clock your time, 9 o'clock my time. I'm just curious. We have the option of working on your assignment or working on your assessment right now. Do you have a preference? Or we can end, you know, and I can.
I was trying to figure out assessment for what to do because I've worked on the assignment and I've already got the tweens and that laid out. Basically, it's just pulling in the graphics and finishing the graphics from a starting to an ending position.
Okay.
But I don't have anything for the assessment, probably because I haven't done week 1.
Or you can do option B here, which is starting from scratch.
Okay.
And if you like, we can, you know, take your dog drawing, or we can start from scratch and make a humanoid figure from just the shape objects.
The problem with the dog is there's not really any joints or anything for movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you can actually see. So that makes that a little hard.
You got the hips and the shoulders, but the legs and front legs and back legs don't have a lot of movement. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So one easy animation is a snowman. You could do a snowman from scratch for this part B. And so you'd have the head would be attached to the body, which would be attached to the bottom. Let's see, there'd be a hand. And I guess, let's see, you could have hands which are made out of sticks. The legs must do at least one of my movements. Walk, crawl, jump, or kick. Maybe you could put boots on the bottom of a snowman and attach the boots. And the boot could kick, not necessarily a leg, you know, of a snowman. And then the arms, the hands, you can just move like a stick, elbow stick of a snowman's arms. Say what?
I said that is an idea.
Okay.
So if you have an image that has like the look of motion already, do you just pick your center, like your heart center point, like they did in the skeleton, and then choose where the quote unquote joints would be?
Yeah, the joints are right at the moment that the one object connects to the next one object.
Okay. So the assignment is do you have to use a humanoid object or can it be like an animal with a human?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Look at the library here. So we've got a symbol. It's a movie clip. That's what that gear represents. The bottom, the head, middle. Each of these are different symbols.
Hey, how did you get the colors for the paint bucket and the paint or and the pencil tool? Because mine doesn't show up that way.
Down here,
Yeah.
I have a classic workspace selected.
All right, because mine didn't show up that way. All of mine don't show up on that left toolbar, that's why.
Why don't they?
I don't know. Like mine stops at the bottom of the bucket. If I
It might be the sizing on your screen. I have a high resolution screen. Do you have the ability to view?
because if I pull it down too far, then it's going to be hidden behind my taskbar at the bottom.
So the little double arrow here, when you collapse and it creates the tools there, and then they're all there right there, there's a chance that you might be able to,
Right.
because I don't see all these on my screen either.
Oh, okay.
When I open them up, I don't see them all. But here I get to see them all when I scroll that down.
Now, when you go to import and you import to my library, that should drop it in that Creative Crowd little symbol, right?
Import the library will put it right into your library. What's your question?
That was my question. It didn't show up. That's what I was asking.
Let's see. convert this. Let's see, that's his left arm. Let's see, it's right arm.
Now, if like one section of it has more than one piece, like his head with his eyes and his nose and his mouth, do you select all those as one and make it move for your symbol?
Yeah, right now that head has all
All of it. Okay.
bottom, left arm, middle, right arm, head. Okay, what did I do? I've added the arms are part. Oh, I was editing. Okay, here's what I did. I was editing the head, and before I stopped editing the head, I actually added the. I didn't realize I was still editing the head when I added the arms and legs, feet. So what I need to do is by editing the head, I want to.
So, like, for example, if I have a horse, I could make the whole body a symbol. And if it has a rider, I can make the rider, his head a symbol, his bodies and arms a symbol, right? Or would you do each individual one?
Whatever has to move as a whole should be a symbol. Does that answer your question?
I think so.
Each part that moves. Trying to salvage my work here. All I did is I copy and then I unselected the head and then I deleted, then I pasted. Let's see, I need to do. Kind of weird where they pasted. Right click. Let's see, I'm in there. Is it already? Left arm already made. So left arm is its own. This guy. So let's see. want to my right arm, left arm is there. And go to draw. It's drawing behind. So what does that mean when they're all in the same layer? See, he did all of his on the same layer. Now I'm tempted to bottom. Hmm. Let's see. Putting them on their different layers. I guess I'm jumping to this because as I was drawing the right arm, I wasn't able to get on the front. So
You're putting them on each layer?
yeah, I'm resorting to that because when I was drawing, I'll show you where I was.
Well, crap. I think I've just put everything on one layer.
Well, you might not have the problem I was having
Okay.
because that's what I wanted to do. Well, I didn't have to do it after all.
Okay.
See, the nice thing about having on different layers is if you want to access objects that overlap, you can hide the objects in the layer. And so right now, my boots are underneath, but maybe I'll just work with it as it is. So it's right arm. Right boot. So I got all those done. Now I choose the bone tool.
Now with the bone tool, does it automatically highlight once you hit the other symbol?
I had to let go.
But does it normally pop up the box when you hit the other symbol?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see it's like there. So the second that it converts from like the slash symbol, the circle of slash, and right there you know that you've connected. Okay. There's my armature. Got my armature. Got my so down here on layer 1.
So if, like for example, I know a stick can't bend, but if you wanted the snowman to have an elbow, would you just put another point in the armature, like in the center?
I would have two different objects, two different symbols,
You would have to make it a symbol.
separate symbols.
How would you go about a separate symbol if you don't have anything to highlight but like a little area?
Well, when I constructed it, I would have gone half this distance, and I had converted that into upper arm, right upper arm, and then I would have started there and then I would make another one, convert that to a symbol, and that would be lower right arm. So
Gotcha. So you'd have to create two separate ones.
right from the get-go.
All right. Well, that just totally screwed up what I had done. That's okay.
So on this layer,
Yeah, I don't know what to do with it now.
Fill, baby. I guess he didn't do it like I'm trying to do it. Huh. Okay, well, let's look at that later. Here's the transpose.
So if you were drawing on something that's an image that's already on there on top of it, never mind, I answered my question.
Just using my arrows. Actually, it's going to probably just move across.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure mine out, and I think I'm going to have to go in and modify it before I can use it to get the legs to actually have joints. Because if I make it a symbol, it's going to be one whole symbol. And I don't know how to go about with the one block and make it into other little symbols.
Well, jump. Gotta get a little bit of a kick. Kicking the feet. Wave. I didn't do it too well on the wave. Could have done an elbow. Could have done maybe, couldn't have done a knee or anything, but try to do a kick with my boot. But I think we should call it a night. Let's see, 9:45, 11:45 your time. What do you say?
Will you take a look at mine real quick just so I can see if we can do anything to it real quick?
Yep, go ahead and share.
Okay, here's where I'm at. I've made all of these individual symbols.
Anything that moves.
Right, all of that would be different symbols that move. But what I was thinking is trying to get this here to where it looks like they're walking, but it's all one piece. And I'm trying to figure out how to put like a joint here, 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 and here. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I can draw in points.
No, it's already done. That's one bitmap.
I know I can't add any other joints in there, can I, with points?
No. What you do is you take that one bitmap and then you break it apart into a body and then 4 individual legs.
I know I don't know how to do that in here. Nope, that's not it. Because I have, it's all one piece. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out if I can go in and make it where it's 4 individual legs by adding.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's
Right now it's one piece, and I don't think I can.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like pulling out scissors and cutting it up and taking the cut up parts and
Yeah. I'm
that's
trying to put them together.
and
Which-
and then the body becomes like the heart core,
Yeah.
and then each leg is an extension.
So I wonder if I could do that in InDesign. Just cut a certain part and put it back together. Okay. I thought I'd ask.
Yeah, it's just a single imported image. You can actually cut that up in Photoshop.
Oh, can you?
Or in Adobe Illustrator, import that one middle body that's got the legs, and then just crop the different parts, and then bring them back together. Almost like you took scissors to it.
Yeah, that's literally what I'm trying to do right now is just like cut here, 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 and here.
Yeah, you could
That way there's movement.
do that with the drawing tool. What you would do is you double click on that body, that one, and double click on that. So see now, did you double click on it?
Yeah.
Is it yet turned into a, click on your library. Let's see, is that now?
That right there I had already as a symbol.
Okay.
It's this part here.
So the horse body. So double click on horse body there in your library, on the gear. Okay, so zoom in on that. And now that's got to become 5 separate symbols.
Yeah. Yep.
And you got to like just, you
Yeah,
can,
like this part here would be 1.
yeah.
This would be 2, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah.
And you can take this same image and copy it and then paste it into 5 different symbols and then edit and cut out, using the editing tools, and you can cut out the portion. If you're really good with the drawing of Adobe Illustrator and do that exact thing, you could.
Well, I've got this actually in Illustrator. Like,
So you can
that's
cut
the
it up
original
there.
symbol. That's the original thing in Illustrator.
So in Illustrator, you can cut that up.
Just cut the different pieces out.
Yeah, have them separated. And
So I could cut
and they can overlap because they're the same color.
that one. So I just sliced it. How do I know that I did it? Like if I use this tool.
Which tool? I can't really tell which tool you're using.
The slice selection tool. To where I can go in and go, all right, I just want that there. But nothing happened. That didn't do anything. Yeah, that didn't do anything. There it did. All right, so if I go in and I slice there, obviously I can change it where I need to. Well, I guess maybe not.
You can go back to the AI file if you're better at using crop feature.
That's all right. So if I slice there, would I go back into the animate and paste it?
Well, into a new symbol, you need 5 different symbols. And
That didn't do anything. So once I slice it, I don't know what you can do after that because I haven't never sliced before.
Are you better at Adobe Illustrator, editing in that?
That's what I'm in right now is Illustrator.
Oh, that's actually not showing on your screen.
Oh, it's sorry.
So
Yeah,
the-
I'm in Illustrator because this is a piece of clip art in Illustrator. And I went in and I sliced it. But I wonder how you can. Would you make a clipping mask?
You need to end up with just that information on the one leg. On
Right.
one layer. That's all that needs to be there. And Christy is better at Adobe Illustrator than I am. I don't know if you have any time to visit her in the Learning Center.
Maybe, I don't know.
She's better at Adobe Illustrator cutting that up than I would be.
Yeah. I'm not very good either at this, obviously. All right. Well, if I can go in here and I can cut it and fix it that way, I'm okay with that.
Okay, you know where you're headed. You need 5 different symbols.
Yeah, I know what I want to do. It's just trying to get there to do it. All right. I will play and see what I can do because that's where I'm at.
Okay, doke.
All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
Good
Yep.
night.
Night.